Welcome back to another episode of Salt City FC, a United Fútbol edition of the podcast. I think that's what we're going to start calling it from here on out. I'm making a podcast decision on the fly. This will be our weekly sit down with Utah United players, coaches, staff members, the USL League 2 and USL W League squads from Utah United. And on our first edition of the show, I'm really excited about this one because this is a player who I think is going to go really far in soccer. I first knew her when she was about 5 foot nothing, maybe, when she was just a young pup out at Waterford High School in Draper, Utah. She went on to become an all-state player, state champion, and now she's an upperclassman at TCU. But right now in the summer, she's starring back home on the Wasatch Front for Utah United in USL W League play. Seven Castain, leading goal scorer for Utah's W League. Seven, thanks so much for joining me. I got a really easy question for you to get you a little bit warmed up. Are you aware of how many goals you've scored in the first 4 games of Utah United's W League season?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I've scored seven.
Okay, that was a really bad question and kind of a little bit of a dad joke right there. But 7 goals through the first 4 games, the leading score. Thanks so much for joining me, like I mentioned. And let's just start right there because a 4-0 start, you don't get much more perfect than that. 12 points from 4 matches. Not quite 4 shutouts. Gave up 1 goal at the very, very end of that fourth game. I'm sure that still kind of sticks with you guys a little bit. That 1 goal given up already, but pretty much perfect start to the season. Just what has been behind this team and kind of the way they've been able to start so hot on a team that really, I mean, a couple weeks ago, literally started from scratch with tryouts, and you didn't know who your coach was going to be for a hot minute, and girls from colleges all over the country. Just how have you been able to kind of put it together so quickly, you think?
I think the first word that comes to mind is commitment. The coaches asked from us from the very beginning before we decided to play with the team, like, we need you there every single day at practice. We want you to be committed. Come to games if you can, even if you're not rostered. And honestly, everybody showed up for practice. Everybody's come with an intensity and a competitiveness that makes us better every day. The training environment has been absolutely awesome. Coaches have done a really good job of just giving us the training that we need, not only to get better right now, but also to be better when we go back to college in a couple months. So honestly, it's been really, really good. And honestly, like, I tell people this all the time when they ask why this team is so good. And I think it really comes down to the fact that we grew up playing against each other, with each other. Like, we all know each other. And this is the first time we've all had the opportunity to really play on a team together other than in ODP. And we're all completely different players from when we were 10, 11 playing ODP.
Yeah, I mean, this is a group that all grew up. You touch on it, playing with each other, playing against each other, ODP programs, club programs, high school programs, a couple of former high school rivals on the same team, some current college rivals on the same team in Big 12 soccer, very well represented, I think, on this squad between obviously you at TCU and BYU, Utah. That sort of a thing. But has it been kind of fun to sort of not only rekindle maybe some of those relationships that you had, but realize that even though you're used to going up against these players kind of week in and week out through high school club soccer and now into college, now you get to play with them and figure out how to play with them?
Yeah, I actually think that's been the best part. When we were on this away trip this last weekend, we spent around 4 days together, and I've grown up around these girls and played with them or against them, and I've never actually had the time to just like spend time with them and learn who they are and who they are as people, and like just getting to know everybody for the first time has actually been so awesome. Like, regardless of where we go for school, what team we're playing for, like, everyone there is a great human, and I'm like absolutely blessed to have gotten to meet so many of these great girls and get to play with them. Like, they're making me better every single day. So it's been really exciting. And I think that's why our chemistry has been so good, is like, despite those rivalries that you talk about, just from Big 12s or BYU and Utah, like, none of that, you don't see any of it during practice. Like, we are a cohesive team. Like, it feels like a real team.
Yeah, for sure. And you've been able to do it, like I mentioned, so quickly. I think it's pretty remarkable, and it speaks to Coach Scotty and his staff and Nuno with the organization, what they've been able to do there. I think it's a ton of credit to them. We've been talking about this, so I might as well bring it up right here. You grew up in Utah, Draper area, Waterford High School, won a state title there. Then you went away to college. You've been in Fort Worth for the last couple of years at TCU. What kind of brought you back home for the summer to play with Utah United? I mean, summer soccer is great and it's nice to get some extra reps in and that kind of thing. But you also probably could have done that back in Texas, maybe stayed a little bit there and trained closer to your college program, that kind of thing. Well, what brought you to United? Was there something about the program, or was it also just sort of a matter of coming home and, seeing mom and Nana on the weekends?
I'm a homebody at heart, and I spend 9 months of the year away from my parents, away from my friends and family. And so I think coming home to Utah has been a part of my routine since I was a freshman, like 17 years old, my first semester at TCU. And so it's really just like my reset moment. It's my moment of growth. Like Utah is a place that has so many good trainers, programs, all of those things that can really help me grow. And doing so in an environment that I feel comfortable in and that feels very safe was really important. So I've always considered coming home as like my like summertime grind. But I think with United, um, it was really just the opportunity to play with like all the best players in the state. Like we all have played WPSL in the past. To name a few, like LaRocca, Surf, like all these girls I've played against them, but we were able to basically pull the best players from all those teams to create one team and play out of state and get some different looks, get some different competition, see different college players. And so I just thought it was a really good opportunity to kind of test myself in a competitive environment for sure. Because that is the next level, like after senior year, like it's deciding to go pro and you're in a new environment all over again and having to compete, adapt quickly, get comfortable, get confident, and you don't have a lot of time to do that. And that's what we had this summer was a week and a half for the coaches to decide, okay, who's going to be our starting lineup, who's going to play. And so I think it was just really a great like test moment to see like, okay, mentally am I at where I need to be? And physically with soccer, like, am I doing the right things? And I think United has been a great opportunity for me to really see that like, hey, like I'm making the progress that I need to make to get to the pros.
Well, let's build on that a little bit because I recognize we're still super early. I mean, a week and a half into the season, right? And so at the risk of asking this too quickly or too soon, do you feel like you've learned anything about yourself that maybe you didn't know soccer wise or kind of future aspiration wise with, trying to develop into a little bit more of a professionalized player? I won't quite say pro yet, but a professionalized player through kind of your experiences so far?
I think the biggest thing I can say that I've really learned is I'm not the same person or player that I was when I was a freshman. And I think it's always really important to remind myself of that, that like every year, every semester, I continue to grow. And so the mistakes I was making as a freshman or the mindset that I had as a freshman is not going to be the same mindset that I have as a senior going into my last season. And then I'd say the other thing is like it all comes down to adding layers to your game. And I think this has been a great opportunity for me to work on some of those layers. I'm a very in behind player. Like I like to get in behind back lines. I'm a finesse finisher, not much of a power shooter. And so I think like really seeing like moments and opportunities where I'm like, okay, like I see a shot outside the 18, like there's opportunities every single day to work on that. And so I think that that's been really good for me. And like United has been really helpful in helping me kind of find those spaces that I've struggled to find in college, just scoring goals wise. And so I think that's been really good.
I, I realize if your college coaches hear this, they might get a little bit worried because different systems, informations, and tactics probably bleed into this some. But do you feel like you can take kind of some of those things back to TCU, where you had an incredible junior season, all Big 12 first team. You tied for the conference lead with 13 goals. It really felt like you were kind of breaking out in a lot of ways collegiately. Do you feel like some of those things that you're just touching on that you've learned already and are going to learn from United, you can take back to Fort Worth too?
Yeah, I definitely think that a lot of the stuff that I'm learning has been less of like learning at United and more of a confirming. I am a very film-oriented human and player, and so for me, like I've watched every single shot that I've taken in my junior year, on the field, and like I analyzed like, okay, like where are there areas where I'm either consistently missing shots or where am there areas where I'm consistently not taking the shot that I need to. And so I think United has really just been like a safe space for me to work on those things and like honestly, like sometimes I'm gonna hit a shot outside the 18 and I'm gonna blast it over, but like it's a safe space. Like everyone's trying to learn and grow. And so I think like really the biggest thing that I've learned here is just like the mindset piece of like it's okay to make mistakes. Like I don't need to be perfect now. Like there's just a little bit more of a freedom that I'm hoping that I can definitely take mentality wise back into TCU because realistically we play our best when we're not thinking, when we're just feeling how we play. And so I think that's something that I'm really trying to like find a way to be consistent with as I move back to TCU, if that makes sense.
No, for sure, 100%. I joke with a lot of soccer players, high school, collegiate, even some professionals. Otherwise, because I cover a lot of sports in my job and my role within the media and whatnot. And I joke with some of the soccer players sometimes that, when you're a goal scorer, occasionally you just got to rip it and prove that you can also kick a field goal in addition to hit the back of the net. So like sometimes you just need to go find certain spaces and maybe you rip it over the crossbar, but you still prove that you can rip it over the crossbar still, so that you still have that power, that kind of thing. So I really like that answer. And I think you were kind of touching on this a little bit, but you seem to have in a lot of ways kind of embraced a little bit of a senior role with this United team, one of the older players, certainly one of the more veteran players on the squad going into your senior year at TCU. What kind of advice do you have for some of the younger players? And I know you've also actively worked with maybe some youth soccer players and high school soccer players and that kind of thing. When it comes to just sort of taking the next step and maybe learning to, these are girls that you were in their shoes at one point. Maybe what do you tell them to kind of help bring them up to where you are and hopefully where you want to go someday?
I'd say there's two things. First of all, I always will believe that hard work beats talent. Um, I personally like haven't always been the most talented kid. Like things didn't always really come naturally to me, but one thing I've dedicated myself to, especially in college, was like semester over semester improvement. It's something that me and my coaches talk about a lot now that I'm a senior is like every single semester, like I vowed to come back a different person, a better person, player, just human in general. And so I think like to get to the next level, you have to realize that like this is not the destination. This is just another stepping stone in your journey. And so I think like every time I come home for summer, every time I walk into a spring season, every time I walk into a fall is like not getting caught up in exactly like the moment that I'm in, but realizing that like this isn't the end. Like this is just another experience, another step, another moment of growth for myself. And so I think really embracing that growth mindset is super important. And that kind of brings me into my next point where you really do have to embrace the hard things. I also can be a little bit stubborn at times, and sometimes I think I resisted things that definitely needed to be done earlier. I talk to a sports psychologist really consistently. You don't see a lot of players in the NFL, NBA, that any top level players who don't talk to a sports psychologist. And I think sometimes there's a little bit of a stigma of like, oh, well, I have to go ask somebody for help. But there's a reason we have coaches. Like this is a mental coach. Like 90% of your game literally comes down to like right in between your ears. That's what my dad loves to say. Is like your problem's in between your ears. Like you need to fix it. And so I think like the biggest thing that I've learned like as I've gotten older and as I've like worked with younger girls and kind of helped like freshmen and all those things is like really telling them like, hey, like 90% of it comes down to like what you're thinking. And like it's still something I struggle with as a 21-year-old like heading into her senior season. And so I would really say like embrace the hard stuff, like embrace the feedback, lean into your coaches. If they yell at you, be like, okay, well, I want to get better. So I'm going to be in your office every single day until I can like show you like, hey, like I'm really committed to this. Like I really want to be there. And like coaches see those things. And so I think it's really just embracing the hard things, like and knowing that like the result isn't going to happen that day. Like it's not something overnight. People talk about overnight successes all the time, but that's 20 years of work. Like you can say my junior year was a breakout season, but like that's 20 years of work that I put in that no one else saw. And so I think just really knowing that and always just having that growth mindset is so vital to being successful. And I think sometimes we commit to college or we have a great year and we think, oh, well, I've reached the peak, but there's always something else to achieve. And I think that's just something that's really important to remember.
I love that. I love that. That's awesome advice because yeah, there is always a next step when you're, going from high school to club, from club to college, from college to the pros. And even the next step in life, eventually the ball's going to stop bouncing, right? The ball's going to stop spinning. And so you got to kind of think of not only what your current move is, but where your next step is going to be, where your next move is going to be, and kind of how you can progress in the future, whether that's on the pitch or both off the pitch. And let's wrap it up a little bit, maybe off the pitch, Seven, not talking too much about soccer because I had a really fun opportunity last week, your guys' home game. I saw, well, I thought it was you walk into the stadium because it was a young lady wearing a purple TCU shirt with a number 7 on the back. Turns out it was your Nana, your grandma,
Yeah.
who could not wait to talk to somebody about little Seven Castain, which I thought was great. If you go to a United match, you'll see her. She'll probably be on either the very front or the very top row, depending on the day, depending on the leverage, and that kind of thing. And it kind of struck me. Your entire family was there watching you play, and you mentioned you're a little bit of a homebody. That's why you're back here in Utah, kind of recentering in Utah. But how how much of you how much do you kind of rely on your family? How important is your family to you to keep you not only motivated on the soccer field, but just kind of keep you grounded as a human being and sort of recenter yourself right there?
Honestly, family is everything to me. My parents are my best friends. I mean, I literally tell them everything. They have been as much a part of this journey as a soccer player as I have. They like, I mean, honestly, like you have the financial support, obviously, but just the belief in me, like my parents have been there for every single game. My parents have literally been at every single game that I've played at TCU, whether I played 2 minutes or I played 90. Like they have quite literally been there for everything. And like I mean I can't really describe it. Like I'm an only child. Like I don't really have any siblings to support me or like have that friendship right there. And so like for me, like my parents like genuinely are my rocks. I call my parents like 4 times a day, like every day. Like they hear from me all the time. So I think their support has been huge. But beyond that, like just like family in general, like family from Utah, family from Seattle, family from Arizona, like my parents get an apartment when we're in fall season, and every single weekend that I have a game, whether it's home or away, like there's somebody who's like, "Hey, I want to be at this game." Like I always have somebody other than just my parents at those games, whether it's a grandparent, a like cousin, family friend. Like so many people have supported me instrumentally through this. Like I can't imagine it meaning the same thing, like soccer meaning what it does to me right now if it wasn't for that support. I honestly, the love has been the most important thing of all. And I think that's what makes me love the game so much is like, it's been the thing that like has brought my family together over and over and over again. And realistically, like you can't do any of this without the people around you. And the people around me are the best of the best. And I mean that with my whole heart. Like they have the best love to give. So.
I love that, and a lot of times family aren't just the people that choose you by being born into that family, but also the people that you choose to be a part of you in your life. And family comes in a lot of ways, and that's really cool. I love hearing that. Seven Castain, she's number 7 in your programs, also number 7 in our hearts, but sometimes number 1 in our hearts as well. 7, by the way, is a lucky number in a lot of cultures. A lot of whether it's cultural identities, religious identities, and so forth. And Seven Castain, I think, has been pretty lucky for Utah United this summer as well, and will be for TCU this fall as she continues into her senior year. Seven, thanks so much for joining me as we kick off this United Football edition of the podcast. And you know what? In exchange, I'm going to shoot you a little bit of karma for the rest of the season. I want you to get off. I know it might hurt a little bit, but I really want you to get off of 7 goals for the rest of the year. Is that okay? So I'm going to shoot you some of that
I can
karma
do it.
to try to
Okay.
get off of 7 goals. So thanks so much for joining me, Seven, and we'll catch up with you later, and we'll catch up with all the listeners on this podcast a little bit later here on United Football on Salt City FC.